I want to bring in Peter Baker, chief White House correspondent for the New York Times and an MSNBC political analyst. So, Peter, I want to ask you about something that Donald Trump just posted on Truth Social. It says, we now have complete and total control of the skies over Iran. Iran had good sky trackers and other defensive equipment, and plenty of it, but it doesn't compare to American-made, conceived, and manufactured stuff. Nobody does it better than the good old USA. Can you give us some context on this, and do we know what stuff is?
Well, the operative word in that post is the word we. We now have control of the airspace over Iran. That's very suggestive and very curious, right? The question there is, what does he mean by we? Is the United States actually participating at this point? Because up until now, our understanding is this has been entirely conducted by Israel on the offensive side of things. The United States has agreed to help defend Israel against retaliatory strikes from Iran. But up until now, we don't know of any U.S. participation in the offensive strikes that Israel's been waging for the last several days. This seems to suggest perhaps some involvement. Now, he also may just be referring to American hardware, which Israel, of course, is using as part of its military. Its military is based in large part on American technology, American military equipment. So it possibly is just a reference to the fact that, you know, he's claiming credit in effect for American technology and know-how being used by Israel. So that's an open question. And it raises, of course, the larger question, which is the United States going to participate in a bigger way, if it is already, in these strikes, particularly, as you mentioned at the top of the show, against the Fordo nuclear facility, which most analysts believe only American military can actually take out?
Well, as part of that big picture, as you know, Peter, the president has campaigned for a decade on not getting involved in these kinds of wars. Do you have a sense, or what are people telling you about their sense of what it would take for him to go back on that now, and whether his base would support him?
Yeah, there does seem to be a real schism right now among the MAGA base, right? You see Tucker Carlson and some of these others who have been very reluctant to get involved with Israel's war, saying, you know, back off, don't do this. This is a mistake. They're trying, the deep state warmongers are trying to draw you in. At the same time, you had a very interesting post today from Vice President J.D. Vance, who typically is on the side of the more isolationist wing of the MAGA movement. And this long post instead seems to be possibly laying the groundwork for a potentially Trump decision to use military force himself against Iran, because what it does is talks about Iran's enrichment of uranium beyond what it would need for civilian uses. It seems to be making the case that Iran has violated its obligations and therefore, you know, potentially at least justifying action by the United States.
What are your sources telling you, Peter, or what do you imagine this meeting is that the president is expected to have with his advisors today? And what actually is on the table? What's at the core of the debate we think they're having?
Well, I think the debate, as you said, is Fordo. I mean, because this is a bunker that is so deeply, fortified, buried inside the mountains of Iran, that Israeli forces, as powerful as they are and as successful as they have been in the last few days, does not have the capacity to take out. And if you want to genuinely cripple Iran's nuclear program, most people say you have to go after that facility in Fordo. Otherwise, you're just setting them back a ways and not making any kind of lasting impact. So that's the big question. Do you use the United States military force to participate in this operation? And there's an argument to be made that now the operation has begun, even though Trump made clear he would have preferred diplomacy, that you might, if you're going to take out all the rest, you might as well take out Fordo as well to do the maximum damage. That diplomatically, it may not be that much more cost at this point. On the other hand, having the United States directly involved in the offensive operation is an escalation, and it does put the United States in a war, in effect, with Iran. And I think that's something that Trump has long avoided, long sought to avoid, and his base, a lot of his base, don't want any part of.
Peter Baker, thank you very much for that. And if you get any more intel on exactly what the president meant by that tweet, let us know.